E2 Cyrene is overrated. And there it is. Okay, so here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. E2 Cyrene, it is really, really good for zero cycler elitists. Because you essentially save up what is like, okay, at the start, which I mentioned, you save up roughly like 75 to 80 action value worth between all your units to get your ultimate faster, right? That's what E2 does. But after you actually get into an ultimate, the most important thing I want to look at in a Eidolon is, does it change your playstyle? And if it doesn't, how much more damage you're dealing with this? E2 Cyrene, it doesn't really improve your damage by almost at all. And the reason why I think this is not that worth it is because her E1 is hella fucking big. If this E2 was on her E1, it is fucking W. It is really, really good W. But because it is at E2, with the E1 at the middle bins, her E1 really just brought down the overall value for E2. Because you can't just look at it, okay, her E2 does this. You need to look at the amount of cost you're spending for both the Eidolon 1 and the Eidolon 2. For comparison, there's a reason why E1 Tribby is the most important Eidolon in the entire version 3. Pretty much anybody playing this game since version 3, you should have gotten the E1 Tribby, right? That's the reason for that. If the E1 Tribby was, however, in E2 instead, and E1 Tribby was something else, well, whatever it's going to be, maybe got like a damage, but if it's not going to be as impactful, then at that point, that exact same effect on the E1, it will no longer look that good on the E2. Cyrene is the same thing. Even though this E2, it gives you a lot of comfort, right? It gives you a lot more comfort. You get to activate your ultimate faster. The actual damage increase you're getting from the E2 is actually not all that. So for context, the amount of cost you're spending for an E2, right? Usually in terms of DPS, or rather damage output, is always for DPS. E2 Casterus, E2 Phylon, E2 Hurla, most DPS E2, they easily increase their final damage output by like at least 50%, considering that E1 and an E2. But Cyrene's E2, your final damage increase is really not as much as you would think. It's just that for that first wave, that first cycle, you get your ultimate much faster. Which is why if you're a zero cycler, that, okay, yeah, this E2 is really fucking good, right? Because you get to front load the back loaded energy to have it instantly. But if you're looking at a battle from like 4 or 5 cycles, or like a casual jaw work clear, right? A casual, you could almost not tell the difference between an E2 and an E0, which I think is absolutely fucking crazy, because you're literally spending about a potential 2 cost worth, or like upwards of like 320 pools just for the quality of life for a single cycle. You're essentially pooling for a 2-piece Von Wick. Are you willing to spend 2 costs for a 2-piece Von Wick? So that's my 2 cents on the E2 Cyrene. In terms of her kit, she already more or less functions as a whole at E0 S0, assuming you don't want to chase that 0 cycle. If you are chasing for a normal clear, you want to try and take your team from like a 3 or 4 cycle benchmark and go into version 4, then you can see that adding Cyrene here, it will improve that by at least 1 cycle for each of these respective teams, right? So that's gonna be my 2 cents on an E2. I know people are gonna say, oh my god, he's paid off by now. Nope. I have not been. In fact, the crazy thing is, I think they want me to promote the E2 so that people will actually pull for the E2. So it's literally like the direct opposite, right? They want, if anything, that way would want me to say E2 is absolutely fucking bastard so that everybody pulls for the E2. But I'm telling y'all, this E2 is actually hella not all that, right? So personally, between an E2 casters and an E2 Cyrene, I legit did just go for the E2 casters. Because E2 casters change the damage by way more, and you can still function very well on an E0 Cyrene because the charge out time on casters is really that fast, right? So that's gonna be my 2 cents. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. www. See you guys on the channel. Bye bye. You have coomed your last coom, my man.